Go, I'm curious to see. Let's see how much that temperature dropped. I know you've got a well-written answer, both an answer and some reasoning there. If you don't, for some reason, you just clicked here without that, I am going to expect to see that tomorrow, a well-written and complete answer. So please make sure you do. Pause here if you don't and restart when you're ready. I will show you how I thought through this problem. There's lots of ways to think about it. I'm just going to show you how I thought it through. Like, how far did the temperature drop? And it's really hard to tell because we have these negative numbers involved, and those are kind of new, and I don't really know what to do with those. So my strategy was to not worry about it too much and to think, well, what if it only fell to 0 first? If it fell from 60 degrees down to 0 degrees, it was easy for me to tell that it decreased by 60. Decrease 60. But it actually kept going. So if I break it into these two parts, it was easier for me to tell how much it fell altogether. So from 60 to 0, it fell 60 degrees. And then as it fell to this negative 20, it fell another 20 degrees is how I thought about it. So it fell 60 degrees to here, then another 20 degrees to here. So all the way down, it decreased by 80 degrees in one day. Can you imagine having one day start and end 80 degrees colder? I cannot. That's a lot. What I want you to do here, go ahead and pause, everybody, and I want you to revise your written answer and make it even better now. You can use some visuals, you can use some words, anything you need to do to make your revised answer below a very clear explanation for me tomorrow on why the temperature fell 80 degrees on that particular day. When you are ready, when that is all sparkling and beautiful, unpause and we'll continue from there. Cool. So now that your answer here is well written, well revised, possibly has visuals, certainly has well written sentences, clear, capital, all that. Let's turn to some other examples of things like that to get used to negative numbers just a little bit. I have some smaller ones just to kind of get used to this idea of seeing some negative numbers and thinking about them a little bit. So the mild one says this. The temperature dropped from 5 degrees to negative 2 degrees. How many degrees colder did it get? So I've got a little thing for you there, a little thermometer, a little number line from negative 20 to positive 20. So if the temperature dropped from 5 degrees to negative 2 degrees, 5 would be here. 5. Negative 2 degrees, weird number to get used to. That's, if you'll make a note, that's 2 below 0. So you're going to notice on our number line, there's a 2 above 0, and there's a 2 below 0 as well. Negative 2 is the 2 below 0. It's less than 0. We haven't talked about numbers less than 0 before. Probably you haven't in previous grades either. So negative 2, I have kind of a big pen here. You can be real precise. It's the second one down there. It's like negative 2 degrees is right there. So on a day where the temperature dropped from 5 degrees above 0, positive 5, to 2 degrees below 0, negative 2, how much colder did it get? The way I like to think about that, there's many ways to think about it, is to go from 5 to 0, it drops 5, so it drops 5 degrees to 0, drops 5 degrees to 0, then it keeps going another 2, then another 2 to negative 2. So I like to go to 0, then go a little farther down to the negative 2. So all in all, it dropped 5 degrees to get to 0, then another 2. So it dropped 7 in all from there. So 5 and then another 2 degrees to get to 0. Let's look at the next one. The temperature increased in this case, went up from negative 15 degrees to positive 12 degrees, how many degrees warmer did it get? So looks like it started at negative 15. That's down here. Notice there's a 15 there and there's a 15 here. Positive 15 is above 0. Negative 15, which is the one I want, is below 0. So any note you can make, negative 15 degrees means 15 below 0. If you've never been in negative 15 degree weather, I have been one time in my whole life. It is so cold. I mean, your skin hurts being outside. So on this day, it started from negative 15 degrees and it went up to positive 12 degrees. That's above 0. If you want to make note of that. That's even still really cold. If you've never been in 12 degrees, it stinks. Right there. So in this day, it increased from negative 15 up to 12. How many degrees warmer did it get that day? So I like to do that. I'm all about the 0. 0 is kind of like a really nice and important number here because it makes it easy for me to tell how far it went if I use 0 as like a stop on the way. So I think of it like this. From negative 15, first it went up to 0. So it went up by 15 degrees to get to 0. Then from 0, it went up to 12. It went up another 12 degrees to get to 12. So all in all, the whole day, it went whatever those two are together. 15 plus 12, I believe, is 27 degrees warmer in one day. Well, that's warmer. That's a long way. 27 degrees in one day. That's a lot. Do one more. Spicier. Both numbers are going to be negative in the spicy one. See how this one goes. The temperature decreased from negative 3 degrees to negative 11 degrees. This one's a bit spicier. Can you figure it out? You'll notice here they're both negative, if you want to jot that in. Or they're both below. Both numbers are negative here. So it starts at negative 3, which is here, and it ends at negative 11, which is here. Notice they're both below 0. So how far is that to go? I'm probably going to have to count my way here. I can't use the 0 to help me. The 0 made it really easy on the last one. But I don't have, the 0 is not on my way this time. It's sort of like out of the range. So I look at that day, I'm just going to have to count my way from negative 3 down to negative 11. So it starts at negative 3, then it went to negative 4, negative 5, negative 6, negative 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It went down that many times. Let me count it this time. So I started at negative 3. It went down to negative 4, negative 5, negative 6, negative 7, negative 8, negative 9, negative 10, negative 11. I counted 8 along the way. So it looks like it decreased by 8 degrees from negative 3 to negative 11. So that's just a really basic idea of how negative numbers work. We see negative numbers a lot with temperature. We're going to talk about some other times we see them later, but we see them a lot with temperature. So with those 3 examples to help you, you have 10 check your understanding questions. So in each case, I need to see not just an answer, because of course I'm giving you an answer, but some logic that helps you answer. So here's an example of how you might answer it and check to see your answer. It decreases from 12 degrees to negative 1 degrees. So you see, you have a thermometer here to help you. Here's 0. The negative ones are below it. Positive ones are above it. If it decreased from 12 to negative 1, you're welcome to write all over this thing if you want to. You know, the way I would have done it is 12 was here, negative 1 was here. Remember what I did? I have the 0. I say, okay, it drops 12 to get here, then another 1 to get there. So 13 in all. So to make sure you've answered clearly, you could say, so just like that, you could say it drops 10, then another 1, I'm sorry, 12, then another one, for a total of 13 degrees lower, something like that. So give me a nice clear answer so that I can tell you really know what you're doing and you really know why that's the case. And when your check your understanding questions are done and the other stuff is ready for me to check tomorrow to make sure you had a productive day of learning and for you to build off this in the future, you will be all set. And I hope you have a great rest of your digital day. And I will see you tomorrow.